something happened in me that made me curious about what I was seeing and how I was feeling.
He's not my friend, he's like my brother. So it goes way beyond like a basic friendship. We've known each other for 28 years. If you're too similar, you homogenize and collapse eventually. If you're too different, you're bound to explode.
And we do it to this day. You know, we still sit side by side in the same way that we did 22 years ago.
Everything changed from black and white to colorful. Yeah, there was a whole new world open to me.
We might not agree, but actually we tend to agree on core principles.
How would you kind of deal with that to stay motivated, stay on top, keep everybody motivated and moving forward?
We're trying to capture it. It's always like, how do we capture magic? How do we keep hold of it? You know, if we're working on a project for 6 to 9 months.
What's good, everybody, and welcome to an amazing video. This video is all about Simon, Dixon and Aporva Baxi, the two founders of DixonBaxi, the synonymous and amazing London-based brand design studio. Founded in 2001, they've been creating incredible work for the last 20-some years. We were beyond honored and privileged to sit with them and talk about everything design and brand. In this video, we delve really deep. We ask some pretty personal questions. We really wanted to understand and find out what makes these guys tick, how they run their business, and hopefully find some insights into the world of brand that could also help you guys and also help us. So there was a little bit of a double mission going in here to kind of dive into the workings of DixonBaxi, and I have to say, it did not disappoint. So please join us on this incredible journey of an interview for the next 40 or so minutes as we dive deep and get to know the amazing studio, DixonBaxi. What's good, everybody, and welcome to an extra special edition of Hyperfocus. We are beyond honored to be here at DixonBaxi. We are on like a little bit of a tour. We are in London at the moment, and yeah, we have been invited, or we invited ourselves, however way you put it, to sit down with Simon and Aporva, the two founders of this amazing studio. We're going to sit for the next 30-40 minutes or so and have a chat. The guys don't know the questions, so that's also going to be interesting. It's going to be a surprise as well for them. But yeah, without further ado, I'd like to say thank you and also welcome to our video. And it's also a pleasure to be here.
Welcome to the studio.
Yeah, welcome to the studio. Amazing to see you in person. We've seen you on the screen all this time, but very happy that you're here, and thanks for inviting us to be part of this.
Cool. Cheers. All right, so I'll hand it over to my esteemed colleague, Mr. Jan
Yeah, we
Stein.
have a clear order on who's asking what question at what point.
I've been out of England for far too long. It's very German. It's very organised in here.
No, it's all easy, all good.
It's like wrestling, isn't it? Tag team.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I'll be helping you with a chair in about 20 minutes.
Round one.
All right. So our first question is so I would actually get back a little bit into my history. So I was born in East Berlin, and there was a very empowering moment when actually the wall came down, because it literally everything changed from black and white to colorful. So yeah, there was a whole new world open to me. So there were not really brands and art and all this kind of stuff before. So I was introduced into a whole new world, and that sparked that was like a really important moment for my career, and I think it formed me and made me who I am nowadays. And we would like to ask you, what was the spark that ignited your passion for design? Is there a moment in your life you can remember also where maybe in your youth or maybe later, which was like, okay, that changed me and made me who I am today?
Well, I don't have a Berlin story.
That's a good one, actually.
Yeah,
You've had time to think about that.
Do you want to go first, or shall I?
It's a good question, actually. I don't think I have such a paradigm shift. I was born in India, but my folks moved when I was 2. So all I've known is London and London life. And, later in life, I got to travel. But I guess I didn't really see this as a moment of change for design. But Simon's very familiar with all of these stories. But there is one that I remember, which was when my uncle took me to a movie. And I didn't know what it was, and he wanted to see this, and we were in the cinema. It was, as you can imagine, very dark, and suddenly, I see this kind of neon helicopter kind of, fly across a city with glistening lights and so on. And then suddenly we're in this sort of hyper neon video game world, and I didn't quite understand the entire movie. And I don't know if you can imagine what it was, but it was Tron. It was 1982.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, quite an anchor for many people. But for me, I think at that point, I didn't know what it was, but I was really excited about it. And I still cite it to this day, 30, 40 plus years on, as a pivot point, because it felt so exciting and new. I was I think 10 at the time. So didn't know that it was design. But I was exposed to something that I hadn't been exposed to before. And it stuck with me, so much so that through high school and into my career, I used that as a formative reference because it had something that felt otherworldly. It tapped into my love of video games at the time. It felt revolutionary. It felt like something I didn't understand, which was also really interesting. And so, I would say that's a formative moment. And then, we can talk about later in life, but I think that was a tipping point where something happened in me that made me curious about what I was seeing and how I was feeling.
Mine was slightly different. I was home educated, so my parents were kind of quite bohemian. So I grew up quite feral, so I didn't go to school. And this was the kind of late 70s and early 80s. And my father was a photographer and a journalist. He used to work for things like the NME and the Face. So the house was full of lots of different kind of crazy types of people, and it was very artistic. So I used to draw comic books, illustrate, used to do lots of different creative things. But as I got a little bit older, I realized that the kind of squares that everyone was rolling joints on were album covers, and all those album covers were these really amazing designs in these words. And I started to look at them and read the names, and I realized that somebody had made all of these incredible images. And I started to think about how that applied to how I thought about creativity. I didn't know it was graphic design. I didn't really know what it was. But I liked the idea that someone cared enough to make something that was really specific to that type of music or that particular genre. And that kind of, led to me thinking about being some form of creative.
Amazing. Cool. Leads me on to my next question. So Jan and I are founders like yourself, and yeah, we bicker from time to time, and we disagree, but we also agree as well, and we try and find a shared vision, and we're both very passionate about what we do, and we're striving to move towards move forward into the future with what we're doing. And my question to you is, as founders, how do you guys maintain a healthy business partnership, but most importantly, remain friends at the same time out of all of this? It's just a facade, right?
It's just some place.
Okay. Yeah. There's a hard line here. There's a hard line.
No, he's like my brother. He's not my friend. He's like my brother. So it goes way beyond like a basic friendship. We've known each other for 28 years, nearly 30 years. So I've known him slightly longer than my wife. So my work wife, I guess. As long as pretty much most of my friends. And it's about the space you share. If you want to do anything amazing for any length of time, there has to be a sense that the two parties have enough similarities but enough differences to make it achievable but also interesting. If you're too similar, you homogenize and collapse eventually. If you're too different, you're bound to explode. And you need some sort of friction or energy in order to keep a relationship. But we've got a very simple principle, which is one person says something, the other person says something, the other person adds something, the other person adds something. And that's how we work. We've kind of simplified it down. It's the same with design or anything, which is, what about this? Or maybe that. What about this? What about that? And in most instances, the way I think it works is, if Aporva is doing something, I trust him 100%, it will be done completely. And I don't need to be involved. But if he asks my opinion, I'll give him my opinion. But of course, that doesn't mean it has to be the case, and vice versa. And I think if you just have a relying system, which is that person's got it, but when I'm down, he picks me up, and when he's down, I pick him up. I think it seems to work. I don't know why it works. I don't know why it works with me, but it seems to work.
Yeah, I guess building on that, it's also a mutual respect, for each other, and also a creative respect. We're in the creative business, and I think if we rewind back to 28 years ago in the career we had, our formative career, there was a healthy sense of creative respect, and wow, okay, that person's striving for something that's exciting. I want to be part of that, and I think we share that. We share the push and pull. I wouldn't say it's competitive. I would say it's additive. As Simon says, it's a progressive, and we do it to this day. We still sit side by side in the same way that we did 22 years ago. We have an amazing team that actually, is really the heartbeat of the company. But we still, even this morning, are talking in that way where it's like, I've got an idea. Oh, that's cool. How about this? Let me do this. Let me do that. Or let's work with the team. And it feels very exciting and energizing. And I think the other thing that we probably have in common that's a great thing is about what's next. There's almost a latent sort of, it's not boredom, but it's a sort of continual drive. We always kind of talk about an internal battery, and I think we both have that, and a lot of the team do, that continue to drives us forward. And I think it's the matching of that allows the pendulum to keep swinging, or the perpetual machine to keep going. And I think that's what makes it work. And I think over the years, we because of that mutual respect, sure, we might not disagree. Might not agree.
There's the Freudian slip.
We might not agree, but actually we tend to agree on core principles, and also, okay, actually you want to do it that way? Great, let's go with it. And there's enough space for us to do our things as well.
We're always making the thing as well.
Yeah.
So it's not about us, it's about either the team or what we make together.
Yeah.
So whenever we're talking, it's, what do you think about that? If we do this, will that help people? If we do this, will it make the creative more interesting?
Yeah.
Are we atrophying somewhere? Or we're kind of rampant optimists, I think. And we have like a battery, which is, you only get one go at this. So you might as well put your full energy into doing the version of it that you want. And you're bound to fuck up and make loads of mistakes along the way. But if you make more better decisions and fewer bad ones, you'll do okay. And that's how we see it. So we just try and make the right call at the right time and base it on what we believe is the right thing to do. And it gives us energy by doing that. We're not worried about what anyone else is thinking.
And look, after this much time, there's a shorthand. It's like any relationship. You sense stuff, spidey sense, or this kind of a sense of, oh, actually, we need to do something, or a shortcut. It's just like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, and I'm sure you guys have that. Where you start to build a sort of ability to telepathically know what's going on.
You also have to suppress your energy to a certain degree, because the last thing the team needs is Godzilla versus King Kong.
Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That doesn't work.
You need to carry yourself a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the similar for us. Like, I'd say, I sometimes say, like, it's yin and yang. Like, Yang has certain strengths and qualities that I don't have, and it's the same in other ways. And when we come together, we're much, much stronger. And it's a really great relationship, because I absolutely trust him 100,000%. I know he has my back and the business's back. Those are the solid core foundations for us to be able to build upon. And the decisions I say, he will back me up on. And it's the same both ways. And I mean, I love going to work with him every day and trying to figure this out. And at the same time, with what you say about your team as well, it's like, for us, it's every time somebody new comes, everything changes. Guys, I have one thing to ask of you. One small favor. If you are liking this video and you're enjoying the content that we're creating, please hit that subscribe button and like the video. Over half of you guys are not subscribed as of yet, and we hope to change that. But the more who subscribe and like the video, we will be able to create better and more content just like this. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate the support. So if you could do us that favor, we would highly appreciate it. But having those foundations, that leading kind of guiding light to kind of move you into the right direction is super important.
Yeah, I mean, you guys you set the tone, right? I mean, if you're founders, you do have a vision, and people join because they align with that in some way, and then you that tone kind of emanates across the company and the team, and they try and emulate it. But the thing is how for each of those people to have their own perspective on it and their own expression of it, because there's always a challenge where you feel like you have to fit into a mold, and it doesn't work that way. So I think what's exciting about our team, and any company, I guess, that has a varied and diverse team, is those different voices and the ability for them to collide and create something new. And our role, I guess, is, we always talk about the space between us is actually DixonBaxi, not two individuals. It's the environment we create for the team, the clients, the audience, the work, all of those things. That I think what we probably work the hardest on, and it's like an engine, so it's like an F1 team, just keep twiddling those knobs and looking at all of the variables to try and...
Or getting a double diffuser. We just watched the Braun documentary on Private Keanu Reeves, so we're into that at the moment.
All right, that also leads already into the next question. We already touched it slightly. So DixonBaxi, I think you founded this company like 20 years ago, right? 22 years ago. Or you have like around about 50 people working for you. So I mean, company culture is born like usually very early in the history of a company. But of course, like every new person who joins the team brings like a new tone and introduces something new to the culture. So our next question would be, how do you keep on cultivating a healthy and positive company culture?
Yeah, that's about learning and being adaptive, I think, because if we thought or not acted the way we did when we started the company 22 years ago, not only would we be redundant creatively because everything's changed in terms of how we create, culture, society, behaviors have all changed. So I think the thing to do is, we believe in having principles to drive what we do, everything. That if you have values and principles underneath what you do, it gives you an anchor when things are hard, or it liberates you when you're feeling enthusiastic. But it also gives you a framework that when you're thinking about company culture, there's a raison d'etre to that culture. It's not just tokenistic, because it's easy to say, let's do the right thing. But doing the right thing is really hard. takes money and time and effort. And if you do it for any length of time, you have to do it consistently. And of course, what happens is you're making mistakes and making good judgments all the time and saying, well, that didn't work, so let's adjust. And it's very different if there's 5 people to 50. Once you get to 50 people, it's a very complex interpersonal situation, lots of different career journeys, different backgrounds, different ways of looking at things. So the soft skills of the company become really important, the things of communication. So, for example, at the moment, we're getting support from external companies to help us or re-educate us in how to develop people's career journeys, how to look at career paths, how to look at feedback loops, things like that, because they're more complex when there's 50 people. So I think it's just being a self-learning entity and using empathy as a kind of tool to make sure that you protect everything, because at either end, there's always going to be extremes and you can't serve every single master. So one person might want to be fully remote and one person might want to always work in the studio. You can't answer both of those questions. So you have to have a compact with people, which is in the middle is something that's balanced. And that's the same for most judgments, is trying to serve as much of the individual need while supporting the collective need. And that's the most difficult balance when you get to the scale we're at and beyond.
And I think, it comes back to tone and energy. The energy you emanate is the energy everyone feels. And I guess if you macro out, we're trying to create an environment where creativity thrives, where there's a sense of invention and innovation, but then we're working at such scale with quite complex businesses that outside forces try and, kind of disrupt that, and there's a turbulence. So what you want to do is...
It's Darth Vader.
I know, yeah. is try and create an environment where people feel safe to make those bolder choices. And having a conversation this morning about how far is too far. And then if our approach and operating principle is to start uncomfortable, we've talked about that before, but then uncomfortable is different for different clients. And you could go so far that it can be disappointing that something doesn't stick. So how do you tell the story? And all of those things, actually nuances that help shape the culture as well. Because, Simon was talking about people want to feel anchored on their journey. They want to know that they can progress in their careers and flourish, but they also want to be in an environment that they can create cool stuff. They want to make friends and all of this. So it's actually quite a complex ecosystem. And the bigger it gets, the more kind of ripple effects there are. So we spend, I guess, a lot of time, either through external experts or our own learning and training with the team, with our leaders, as people move up. Just because you're a subject expert, you're great at design doesn't make you have all the skills of a great leader. So we have to train those. So I think, what's great about, I guess, that approach of continual learning is that you can adapt, you can change, you can listen. I think that's probably one of the biggest things we can do is demonstrate we hear, and that together we shape the culture. It has to be a collective force.
I think that's the key to it. I'm actually slightly different. I'm not fond of leadership. I don't like the top down thing. We were talking about this last night. We do like town halls and village halls, big ones and little ones, depending on the subject matter. And some of the language you get from external people about how to manage people, I just don't like the feeling of it. It feels a bit corporate, a bit stiff. But I think leadership's a dangerous thing because it's about you then. And I think it's about the people. So I think it's actually about shaping the space for other people to create and feel validated. And we're great believers in giving people trust, which is if they're doing something, trust them to do it brilliantly. If they need support, definitely help them out. If they need training, definitely give them that. If they need skills or equipment, give them that. But once somebody is inside and they're trusted, then you should allow them to express themselves the way they can. What we found is that people need the anchor of where they're going and how to achieve that. That's the thing that we've been working on a lot recently, and we will be working on a lot next year. The other thing is, there's this thing that the world outside is fucking crazy. And the way the world operates really affects people's mental health, their sense of place, how they feel validated. And to create and enjoy being a creative professional, you have to be in a good state of mind. And trying to protect people and ourselves from the vagaries of the world is really important. So we have a belief that when we're in here, it's safe, not just this room, but the whole studio. So we try and create a safe environment. And again, you'd have to ask the team whether or not they believe that. It's just what we believe. We hope they believe that. But I think if we can protect people from the vagaries of the world and have an optimistic, positive space, at least while we're working together, we can achieve something together.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the same for us as well. We get like the highest gratification from seeing other people succeed, and we often see ourselves as building a stage, and we use the same word as well. It's like, this is a safe place, a safe space, this is yours.
Yeah.
And, we've got your back, and, we'll take you into meetings, we'll give you the tools, but ultimately, this is for you to be elevated, and we have to kind of hold that
we get
together.
that all the time. I speak to lots of people all over the world all the time. People we like work with, clients and things like that. And there's a tendency for them to say, so you'll be in the meeting? No. The team does that.
Yeah.
You can chat to me about the company and the business, our outlook. I can explain to you the ethos and how we create, but the team does the work. We trust them. So I think once you get to that space, it's just more interesting. It's cooler. So there's a kind of redundancy to that I like. You're making yourself redundant from the situation.
Yeah, I mean,
not literally, because obviously I want to get paid.
Yeah, but it's the ultimate goal for it to run without you, for you not to be needed in the same way.
Yeah, it needs another one. It's not about us. It's about what other people need. So it's that's the thing. If you can get to that space, I think it functions better, and it means we're learning more as well, because it challenges us to adapt to the engine as much as the engine adapting to us.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, you're talking about it being cool. It is phenomenal what people make. We're always enthused, and our biggest challenge is the things that we make in the space in the journey to get to that final expression of the brand. It's so exciting. And we're trying to capture it. It's always like, how do we capture magic? How do we keep hold of it? If we're working on a project for 6 to 9 months, the things that we begin with are oftentimes the most exciting and have the attitude and swagger and all the things that we're really excited about, all rooted in a strategy. But there's a spontaneous and intuitive quality. And then there's this like long kind of journey as well to say, yeah, but what about that thing? How do we bring that along? And we can only get that, we marvel at how the teams come together, and in, a handful of time that suddenly these sparks of creativity, and we're like, wow, it's working. And then, we kind of meet, the road hits the rubber, so, and there's a reality. And our role, I guess, working with some of these organizations is to help them come on that journey, so that, even though we're working with a global brand, they feel like they can make that shift and transformation. So, it's the culture is also about that people feel excited about what they're working on, and they want to be challenged. There's this thing of like, I feel like I'm hitting my comfort zone. I want to exceed it. And we tend to have 50 people that want to keep pushing through something, and they feel really excited when that happens. So I think that's actually a very big part of it. Am I making cool stuff? Am I being fulfilled? Am I, and that's not just the designers, it's the entire team, the strategists, the producers, the growth team, and so on and so forth. So that's a big part of, certainly for a creative studio.
Yeah.
It's the work.
That leads really nice on to the next question, because we're talking about the highs, right? The real highs that we're kind of searching for, those endorphin hits, like producing great work, everyone coming together in unison, great things coming out of the studio. But this year has also been very tough as well for the industry, and for a lot of people. We've also experienced it as well. And this is one of the questions I want to put to you is, do you have any advice? How do you guys deal with those? We already talked about it a little bit earlier, about those lows, the lulls, at the time where things are not going so great. And it's got nothing to do with, it's out of your hands. It's maybe the industry is shifting, or it's economical, or there's a pandemic, for example. How do you kind of deal with that to stay motivated, stay on top, keep everybody motivated and moving forward?
Well, that's a multi-layered question, because Often when we talk about this, people have rested responsibility. We talked about sales earlier. Yeah. So if you're getting lots of inbound sales, you're going, yeah, magic darts, things are great. But if you're not going outbound and talking to people, something changes, you've lost control of that process. So it's about thinking strategically about the things that drive success long term. So if you think you need work, relationships, your pipeline, the way you look at the growth of your agency, curate clients, create relationships, that's an active space. If you're inactive in that, you're not running a business. You're basically hoping the business is run for you. The same thing applies to things like COVID. If you have a set of skills and you have figured out the ethos of the company and it operates on a self-learning, optimistic level, when it hits problems, that's when you apply your creativity the most, because creativity is a great problem solver. So you say, right, we can only control what we can control, so let's do that. The two things I always say to people is, if you're running any sort of business in the creative industry and you can't run it in a recession, you don't have a business. So most people start running a company and assume that it works really well, but their margins are tiny. So as soon as things get difficult, the bottom drops out. So we actually have a big bucket of money that we put money into. And we have that bucket of money there, which means we don't have to compromise on the type of work we do. And then when something like COVID comes along, we take money out of that and we can protect the team and not furlough people. So there is an actual responsibility to do that. So when I was saying earlier about doing the right thing and protecting people, you literally have to predetermine those things before you need them. Because if you try and do it live, you can't. So there's a strategic perspective to it. There is a control thing, just controlling the things you can control. And there's an active, optimistic way of looking at the world, because the world is always good and bad.